There's nothing more satisfying than finding the perfect green paint for your living room. Except maybe popping open that can of Valspar Ultra and rolling that first smooth stroke on the wall. And there's nothing more satisfying than admiring your freshly painted wall.
Ooh.
Except maybe peeling off the painter's tape to see those crisp edges. But the most satisfying part of all? Valspar Ultra's price tag, starting at $29.98 a gallon. Affordable, durable, available at Lowe's. Price varies by Sheen.
Empire. Hello and welcome to John's podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein, play-by-play voice of the Washington Commanders. John's on vacation this week, but we wanted to play for you some interesting conversations that he's had recently as we get set for training camp that starts in less than a month down in Ashburn. And today, as everyone has been focused on the number 2 overall pick, Jayden Daniels, and how he's progressed not only through his collegiate career to being drafted and how he's done so far this spring through the off-season program under Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury, John had an opportunity to catch up with his personal quarterbacks coach, Ryan Porter, to talk about his development and where he sees his future going.
Well, Ryan, obviously we've talked before about Jayden Daniels, and I want to start by just kind of getting some background with your work with Jayden. I know how long you worked with him, but tell people like how long you've been working with him, how you were introduced to him.
So, yeah, I've been working with Jayden since he was 10 or 11 years old. I was in my last year of playing arena football for the Philadelphia Soul, and I played 1 year junior college football with Jayden's cousin, Trey, and so that's how I knew Jayden's dad. So I was training at a YMCA park, and his dad was walking out of the gym, and he just came by to say, "Hey, what's going on?" I was just doing my own field work, going over my mechanics, my drops and stuff like that. And his dad walked up to me and was like, "Hey, do you train quarterbacks?" Asked me what I was doing, told me I was getting ready for my last season upcoming. And I was like, "Yeah, I can," and he said, "All right, we'll be here tomorrow." And the rest was history. Brought Jayden out to me. And yeah.
And I'm sure at that time you knew, oh, this kid's going to be a future Heisman Trophy winner, 2nd overall pick. You probably could see it right away, right?
Absolutely not. I knew within the first session, that obviously the kid was going to be special, but me and Jayden's dad talk about that all the time. Like, you knew the kid was good, but I mean, you never know anything like that. All right.
When did you so how often would you work with him? And how often do you still work with him?
So Jayden, I would work with Jayden, especially through as a little kid and through high school and then the beginning of college pretty frequently. Where Jayden is really, really good is Jayden never turns down an opportunity to get better. Like, Jayden kind of nerds out with this football thing. So, in high school, obviously we had a very consistent routine. And then as a kid, his dad would bring it to me 2 to 3 times a week. And then we kept that pretty consistent. Then obviously I became his quarterback coach at his high school team. I was with him 7 days a week. So Jayden is very routine based, very, very routine based. Obviously things are a little bit different now with him being,
Sure,
in the DMV area. And with him being at LSU, Jayden would come back when he'd get free time in California. When he was at Arizona State, I went up there a couple times and we'd go in the bubble and we'd work and stuff like that. But as often as Jayden could come back and get work, he would.
Has he changed his approach at all? Or is when you're working with him, are you still seeing the same person and his approach that you had at the beginning?
No, Jayden's the same. Yeah, Jayden's exactly the same. He's going to be very private when he works. He doesn't want a lot of people around, but he's kept the same routine. I mean, he's extremely consistent, but he does not like to break routine. at all. I mean, even from like what he eats to what he drinks to what time he gets up to what time he goes to bed. Jayden is a very, 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 very consistent individual when it comes to that kind of stuff. He has the exact same approach. If not, he probably more now than he was now. I mean, he understands what it is to be a pro. He was a pro's pro, really going into his high school career.
So when you hear now he was during the spring, he's getting to the facility at 5:45 a.m.
Right.
Does that surprise you at all?
No, I mean, I'm 5:45. That's probably more like 4:45, right? Or 4 a.m. Like they probably have to open up the building a little bit earlier for him, to be honest with you. That's Jayden. So.
And you talked about this before, football nerd. What is that like? He nerds out with football. What do you see with that? Like what examples are there of him nerding out? And I know his dad is that way too.
Yeah. Just constantly always watching film, finding new ways. If there's a new technology out, that can give him an opportunity to be better, throwing motion, footwork, right? Like I was just at LSU this past weekend. And they have, Jack Marucci up there, who's kind of like their Bill Nye the Science guy. And we spent some time together this weekend, and they were going over their virtual reality thing that they have with Jayden, and how what a big advantage that was for them, for Jayden, because he used that quite a bit. And it was the VR goggles and had the wand and stuff like that. So spent time this weekend with Jack and with Joe Sloan, the offensive coordinator. And they were breaking down like how Jayden used it, right? And what he did, his approach was with that day in and day out to understand protection, to understand his progressions, full field read progressions, game plans, installs, daily, weekly installs and stuff like that. And how now, as far as what I've been informed is that the Commanders actually purchased that software and they're using it. Yeah. So, and he credits that to a big part of his success, especially these last couple of years at LSU.
It's funny because I talked to Jack a month or so ago, and when you introduce that technology to make it work, you better make sure you have the right person using it, because not every person. And so I think he would have been a perfect one to kind of be the test guy for that, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, absolutely, I agree.
And what else, like in terms of like football nerd, like you talk about plays and watching film, how often would he watch film? What kind of things would he point out watching film that maybe was a little bit more than some other guys you've worked with?
Well, we've always instilled in him at a very young age that the money's in the small details of things. So like if he'll take a rep and we're just going over just basic in his transition in his 4.5 or his 2.3, and then we'll film it, he'll come back and he's just one rep. I mean, he's replaying that rep over and over and over again, checking, okay, it was his elbow up, right? What his offhand looks like. Is he front foot heavy? Is he back foot loaded? You know what I mean? Every single rep, he approaches it like it's the last play of the Super Bowl, right? Like, what could I have done to get better on that? Like he takes it serious. But again, I credit his dad, right, for his approach to the game and how proactive he is in his preparation for the game. His dad has instilled this into him at a very, 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 very young age, helping him understand you have a small window for success in football. And once it's gone, it's gone. So don't ever turn down an opportunity to get better, whether it's you're out there throwing in the park, whether you're watching film, whether you're, watching practice, whatever it is, like take full advantage of every single opportunity.
Along those lines,
it's an obsession.
Right? And it seems like that. But along those lines from his dad, he was a 49ers fan, right? He was a Joe Montana guy, and he would point him out. Yep. But also there's that, when you talk to Jay, and there's a level of humility that Dan Quinn talked about, that he's got this veteran know-how to go approach things, but a young person's humility, a rookie humility. So how much does that come from him? And how often would you see that, hear his dad talking to him about it?
All the time. Yeah. It was instilled into you're only as good as your last performance. So, the success that you're having, you may go out in the game and throw for, 390 yards and 5 touchdowns. And then you may go out the very next game and have some, not have some success. So, you have to stay humble. You know that his dad would always talk about how many first round draft picks now are on their third team already. You know, that this game is very unforgiving. And they can wash you out really, really quick. And so you have to always be on top of your craft, no matter what.
He would point out the contract stuff or the team stuff. That's
at a very young age, at a very, very young age, you know, he would point that kind of stuff out. Like, you know, it's all good until it's not, right? Like, how many guys are having immediate success in high school and how many guys are having immediate success in college? And then all of a sudden, you know, you have one bad year in the NFL and then off with your head, right? That's why his dad didn't want him to play quarterback.
really
Did not want him to play quarterback for these reasons, you know, and Jayden is the one that wanted to play quarterback. So
the footwork. You've talked about that before too. How much of that is just natural? How much of that is stuff that you guys have emphasized? And where do you think he's at with all that? Because it seems to be a strength of his game.
I think it besides how cerebral he is and how smart and how well he can process information, how sudden he is, how twitchy he is, being able to, you know, extend plays and stuff. I don't think that's talked about enough for Jayden, and obviously wasn't showcased, you know, in his pro day. Jayden, to me, is the most complete quarterback, was the most complete quarterback in the draft. And it's something that was taught to him at a very, 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 very young age. Now, his dad was a shutdown corner, right, in college, and that's where he gets his athleticism from. He's got defensive back feet, corner feet, right? But to be able to have that at the quarterback position, Jayden has had the best feet I've ever coached,
Really?
right? Being able to take them all, dude, it's crazy to watch him. And I'll never forget, we did a private workout with Penn State, which Ricky Ronnie, you know, the head coach at Old Dominion now. And we did probably 60 scripted throws, and Jayden threw every route from 4 to 5 different drops, the same route from 4 to 5 different drops. So he's taken, you know, multiple 5 steps, multiple 3 steps, back out, old school Dan Fouts style, 1 step, you know, in his transition. And Rick and you know, Ricky's standing there kind of scratching his head going like, wait a minute, like, you've been teaching this? And we're like, dude, he's known this since he's 11, 12 years old. And it was just natural for him. Jayden's understand that at a very young age, but also his dad, once he figured out that Jayden was going to play quarterback and that there was no convincing him to cross back over to the defensive side, it was like, all right, we're submerged in this now. We're rocking and rolling. You're going to know everything about this. So I think that's where I came in, because that's kind of what I'm known for in my training. You know, everybody now teaches the off platform, and they're trying to create the correct, you know, hip to shoulder dissociation and stuff like that. I'm a big rhythm and timing guy, right? And the foundation is your base. And I don't think that's taught as much nowadays. And the windows are much smaller now in the NFL. And my background is arena football. I played 9 years in the Arena Football League. So you had to be very, very creative with your footwork, and you had to be very creative with your drops. You know, like Sean Payton's an AFL guy. Matt Nagy's an AFL guy. So, you know, we had to be very, very creative on how we threw the ball, and also, you know, multiple 3 steps, multiple 5 steps, second threes, not crossing over, you know, flash 5s, rhythm 5, big 5s. So we taught that to Jayden at a very, very young age. And Jayden was able to do that and be very, very successful at it. And I think you're going to be able to see him do that now in the NFL, where he didn't really get a chance. He got to do it at Arizona State his first couple years, and then he was in a system with Dem Brock and Coach Sloan where he was only allowed to take 3 drops. He's only taking 1 shuffle, or I'm sorry, 1 slide, a 1 step, and a 3 step. So now you're going to see him. You're going to see it. You're going to get an opportunity to see it.
Will Jayden Daniels climb to the top of the NFC East? Will the Commanders zip past the competition? We'll have to wait until the season starts to see, but you can get a head start on the competition this summer at the Adventure Park at Sandy Spring. Named the #1 aerial adventure park in North America by USA Today, the country's largest ropes course and zipline park, is now open 7 days a week. Located in the heart of Montgomery County, Maryland, the Adventure Park offers climbing, ziplining, axe throwing, food, and more. Experience adventure day or night with your family, or leave the kids at home for one of the exclusive Keep It Lit adult-only events. These summer date nights are perfect, featuring glow lights, music, fire pits, and endless adventure. With challenges anywhere from beginner to expert, there is something for all skill levels. Not looking to scramble through the trees? Keep your feet planted in the pocket and throw a perfect spiral at axe throwing. You can throw at traditional targets or play any number of interactive games. You can even upload your own image. Anytime you're thinking about reaching new heights, make sure you know before you go. The Adventure Park at Sandy Spring is the only ACCT accredited park in Maryland or Virginia. So there you have it, folks. The best climbing, ziplining, and axe throwing in the country, right here in the DMV. Reserve your adventure today at www.theadventurepark.com/kind. And just for people listening too, and I think because you brought this up, I think people think, oh, there's a 3, 5, and a 7-step drop, right? But there's so many variations off of that, that to be proficient in more can do what for a quarterback in a passing game?
Yeah, big time. Like you may have a completely different 5-step drop if you're throwing the same concept out of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, right? Or 11 personnel than you would out of, 10 personnel, right? Because there's obviously going to be slower guys or faster guys on the field, right? So it's all about throwing and rhythm and timing. You look at a quarterback like Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman, in my opinion, is one of the best to ever do it, throwing within rhythm and timing. You rarely saw Troy Aikman ever hitch twice. I mean, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ball out, 1 step, ball out, 1, 2, 3, ball out. And if you can do that, now you're going to keep your big boys in front of you happy too. You're going to keep yourself upright, right? It's understanding, right? I got to get the ball out on time. I also think that something my rookie season, and I instilled this in Jayden at an early age, is I didn't throw a lot of interceptions, and I started throwing rookie minicamp for me, and there was a defensive back from Youngstown, Ohio, and he tells me there's 2 keys that I'm keen on for you, and I'm like, okay, what is it? He goes, 2 things. A, you're patting the ball. I understand that's a rhythmatic cue, right? So you don't see Jayden pat that much. It's a very natural habit for most quarterbacks. Yeah. Rhythmatic cue, right? He goes, so every time you pat, I know to break, right? Cool, break that habit. So I'm always Jayden on about that too. Stop patting, stop patting, stop patting. The amount of times it takes for you to pat takes a DB to break up a pass, right? 2 is they're just going to key your drop, right? So they watch. He watched me every time I took a 3-step, every time I took a 5-step. He knew a radius of where he had to guard, right? Okay, if you're a 3-step, I'm 5 to 6 yards. If I'm a 5-step, I'm 8 to 12 yards, right? So all he did was just watch my feet. So when I figured it out, and then I instill that now in all the quarterbacks that I train, if you can throw the same route for multiple drops, now you're playing chess with the DB. Now he can't key your feet. Now he has to literally concentrate on the zone he's been assigned to cover, right? Or he has to focus on the man he has to cover. You're not giving him any tips to teach the quarterback now, hey, we're playing chess, we're not playing checkers. Where I may have just thrown a 1-step pitch route, but now I'm going to take a back out, or I'm going to take a quick 3. I'm going to confuse you, right? So, and I think that's an advantage that Jayden's going to be able to take into the NFL.
How do you feel?
Big time.
And how do you feel the Kingsbury offense then fits into all that and what it can showcase for him?
Easy, because Jayden's been doing that. So Jayden can take multiple drops, right? Like Jayden can do that. Jayden can get the ball out on time just because his feet are so elite. And I know he's a big fan of the offense, like a big fan of the offense. So it gives him some freedom. So where he can stay open a lot. You'll see Jayden this year back out a lot, where he'll just do back out drops, right? So he stays open the whole entire time, so nobody can get a key to where he's closing the shoulder off where he wants to go. So,
and why do you feel like this offense might suit him? Because I know he went from Arizona State to LSU, like you said, Denbrock, some more, whether RPOs or whatever. Why does this offense fit him, and why do you think he's excited about this offense?
Quarterback guy. I mean, you got to understand.
That always helps.
Yeah, being a former quarterback myself, like when you go in and you have a QB guy, they kind of they design the offense around the trigger man, right? So they understand like, all right, what are the ingredients that we have? And Jayden's being the main ingredient, right? And then being a former quarterback himself, he's going to rely on a lot of what Jayden's comfortable with and what Jayden can do. And good coaches like, Coach Kingsbury and is going to understand that. And he's going to give him a lot of freedom to be able to be free, have confidence, and play as himself.
How would you describe Jayden's personality and just as a person, just away from the field?
Jayden's a goofball, but you wouldn't know that. You're never going to see that side of him. No, he's always got a smile on his face. Yeah. He's always even kill. But he's a goofball. He's a happy-go-lucky, fun guy to be around. But he's only going to show that with people that he's really comfortable with and that he's known for a long, long time. Very reserved, quiet. If he doesn't know you, not going to say much. But if you know him, you've been around him a long time. He's always laughing, always joking. So
we see the smiling and laughing a lot right now, and like especially when there's sometimes in practices he and Sam Hartman might have a little bit of a fun competition. So you definitely see that. What as a goofball, like how so? Like, what does he do?
Always poking fun. You listen, like me and his dad and him, you got to have thick skin to be around Jayden. Always poking fun. Like, don't wear some dusty shoes around him or a shirt that's too small for you, or your outfit better be uptight, or you're going to get on your head. You know what I mean? So it's definitely going to poke fun, just like the guys do that know each other for a long time. You got to come in tip-top shape around him.
When did you see him become like, okay, he just took another step here, he's going to be this? Like, when did you see that?
Marietta Valley High School. I'll tell you exactly the time. I was waiting for you to ask me this question.
All right.
His junior year in high school, his second game. Me and his dad were standing on top of the press box, probably about an hour before the game. And I asked him, I said, what do you think, realistically, where do you think Jayden is? And he had an okay game, first game of his junior year. And I go, where do you think, where's this going to go? And he goes, and Jay always paints the most humblest picture possible. And he was like, yeah, I think he could play Arizona, Arizona State. And he was like, but, I'm prepared for, Fresno State, Boise State. Realistic. He always is extremely realistic. And Jayden went out there against Hank Bachmeier, and he threw for like 598 yards and like 7 touchdowns. Went crazy. And we kind of looked at each other like, and then he did it again, John, the next game and the next game. He had like 3 or 4 straight games where he threw for over 550 and like 6 touchdowns. And we were like, oh, yeah, I mean, no knock. Group of 5? Yeah, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, everything just started racking in. And then, like I said, he threw for over 60 touchdown passes that junior season, threw for over 5,100 yards, and then rushed for over 1,200 yards. And then he did again his senior year. That's when I think we all knew, like, yeah, this is different. This is generational. Like, you don't see this much. This, I doubt we'll ever see this again, in 10, 15 years. That's when we knew that it was that game, the Marietta Valley game, and then he did it, back to back to back to back to back games after that.
Was there anything even in college beyond that, like, or was whatever happened there like, yeah, this is what we expected?
Michigan State against Arizona State when
he
brought him back, freshman, and then he did it again against Oregon. I mean, if you watch his college career, it looked exactly like it did in high school. Like, the moment didn't look too big for him. He looked just as calm. He was able to, handle the adversity, and he went in there and it looked the same. The game looked as slow for him as it did in high school. He was able to make the same decisions. He was able to make people miss. He was able to run by people. He was able to have a high completion percentage. He was able to put up crazy Madden-like numbers. But then really, obviously, what he did this year, the jump that he made, it was like, yeah, this looks like his senior year of high school again.
The other thing I remember talking to you one time about his running style. and where you felt like that emanated from. Cause like he doesn't sit there and try and make these big moves to get around guys. He's almost like he's squeezing through a door sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yep.
where you just kind of describe his running style and where you think maybe that comes from.
Well, his dad tells me, his dad credits all that to flag football.
Mm-hmm.
His dad says everything. You see the little hip
That's what
shift and the hip movement and stuff. And also his dad credits flag football to like his sudden decision making, people running at him, trying to pull his flags and bang, throwing on the run. Like his dad credits all that to flag football, all of it. So he thinks that's where he gets a lot of that style from.
But it's funny because after you said that, when I was watching, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that. I used to coach flag football. Like you can see the way, just like you're trying to avoid the little flag pull, and guys missed them. So
Yep.
you know, like that's kind of a big deal. And last year, was there a game even last year where you start to see like the elevation and the continued elevation of the game? And I know the Florida game was a massive record-setting game for him. Was that the game, or was there another one?
Yeah, I think Florida. And then I know the Alabama game was, didn't go his way, but he kept fighting. Missouri. I like the Missouri game where he brought him back. That was a dog fight, and I think it's going back to like what's the difference between how do you figure out, because I think the quarterback position, John, is the one position where everybody gets it wrong. Right. They get it wrong. And it goes all the way back to high school. What's a 5-star quarterback? What's a 4-star quarterback? What's a first round draft, pick? And in my opinion, a 5-star quarterback or a first round draft pick is a kid that you can turn on his film, and he's never the reason why they've lost the game. He's always the reason why that team's in the game. So you look at the Alabama game. Jayden was the main reason why they were in the game, right? So if you go back and you look this year, last year, like I don't think you can really pinpoint a time where Jayden was ever a reason why they didn't win that game. Like Jayden was the reason, plus his receivers, why they were in the game. So I mean, there's a handful of games that I can pick. But the Missouri game stuck out to me, the Florida game stuck out to me, and even the loss with Ole Miss. Right. Like that was a dogfight. That was back and forth. Those games.
You would text with them after games too, right?
So he has a routine with me. Yeah. Jayden has a routine where he never breaks routine, where he calls me before every game. He calls his dad, calls his cousin, calls me. Yeah.
Did you, after that Florida game, for example, because I know like he was pretty pumped up about that. And that to me, that's the game that took him to the Heisman, right? That put him in, firmly ahead in that race. Did you text him after that one?
I leave Jayden because I know his phone's overwhelmed. You know what I mean? I wasn't a Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, I obviously played Division I football, but I can only imagine, like, for example, when I went to the Georgia State game, where I think he put up 11,000 yards and 11,000 touchdowns. Like he literally had a secret like entrance where he had to sneak out of. And there were still people that were like looking for him. And he had this gray hoodie over his head, and me and his dad were kind of in the corner. And it was his own special like exit that he had to. It's overwhelming for him at LSU, man. It's overwhelming. And he had his own little special golf cart that had to take us back to a little place that we parked like a mile outside of town. And then we had to go eat at a Buffalo Wild Wings that was like 2 miles out of town. You know what I mean? Like Jayden's overwhelmed, so I try to leave him alone as much as possible. When he texts me, I text back, obviously with important, events, like I'll reach out to him. But he's got a lot, man. Like he's got so much on his plate. But yeah, I'll get a text or I'll get a call. Like if there's any time of like adversity, a rough game or stuff like that, it's usually like right when he gets back on the plane. And he's headed back. So
before that Florida game, do you remember that conversation before that game by any chance?
It's typically the same conversation. It's all right. What's the game plan? Right. Like what's going to be the plan of attack? What's their base defense? What do you plan to do different this game from a fundamental standpoint? What are 2 or 3 details that you're going to focus on? Right. Small details. how are you going to get yourself in a rhythm early? Because I believe good quarterbacks know how to create their own rhythm, right? Young quarterbacks rely on offense coordinators and head coaches to create their rhythm, where they're going to throw quick little slip screens and stuff like that. And okay, how are you going to create your rhythm, and what are you going to do different? Are you going to switch your drops up? You know what I mean? Be mindful of your feet. I think you were getting a little wide in your base last game and stuff like that. What are you going to do different from a fundamental standpoint?
And then last thing then too, what have you gotten feedback from him about how he felt like his spring went? Because I told you before, like, people here were really, really high on what they saw from him. What kind of feedback did you get from him?
He's right now. So I rely on his dad a lot right now, because I know when Jayden gets in camp, Jayden is off the grid. He's head down. He cuts out of all distractions. And he's literally head down and just working. I do know that Mariota has been great with him, and we knew that was going to happen. Obviously Mariota is done wonders with Jayden, help catching him up to speed,
really,
and stuff like that. Yeah, I got a chance to watch probably about 30-35 clips yesterday and the day before of stuff that he's doing in practice, and Jayden looks like Jayden. You could see he's mixing up his drops now when it's time for him to take off the pocket. I mean, he's taken off. He looks like he's in command of the football, of his throws. He looks like the same kid.
But it's funny because, like, if you saw yesterday, he had a couple of throws to Brian Robinson. I can't remember if it was from the inside the 25, it was in the red zone. I can't remember, but just really nice throws over the middle to the running back. And just, to me, like, the one linebacker shooting through, can't get there. Next one's over the head of the linebacker. Just really good touch throws, good looking around. I think the second one he had to look left to right. So, you see a lot of those traits from him.
He's very good at going through full field reads, right? And understanding his progression. He'll know where 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 is, right? He'll walk up to the line of scrimmage, has a plan. Where I think a lot of quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks, they anticipate, 1 to 2, right? Where Jayden's really, really good. He understands where everybody is. And Jayden is also going to be very, very smart, and he'll make bold decisions when needed to. But if you're going to give him 6 yards, he's going to take it. He's not going to mess around. I mean, it's one step, get it out. So he understands he's going to win first down. He's not going to turn the football over, right? He's not going to get greedy. If it's, let's just say that's a generic curl flat concept and you're giving him the flat, Jayden's not going to wait for that curl to be open. He's going to take the flat, right? And he's going to create the curl window for the next play, if that makes sense.
It does. I apologize, I said the last thing, but anything else to know about him? Anything else that you think is important to note?
No, I mean, buckle up, guys. Get ready for the ride. I think you guys got a special one. I know you guys got a special one. Everything that everybody's saying about him, as far as him being a pro's pro and going in there and tackling the playbook and going to be proactive in his preparation and just a good human being. And you guys should be really, really excited. You got a good one.
Ryan, I appreciate your time and your insight. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.